Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's seminar. So good to see all of you. There's a few new faces. My name is Vince Burgess, and if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, welcome. And afterwards, come up and say hi. I'd love to talk with you and get to know you. So today's seminar, I'm super excited about it. It's going to be interesting and informative. And as we go throughout the seminar, in your packet, there's an action steps form with some lines on it. Write out your questions and begin to think about some things that you want to ask me as a real estate agent and a broker. We're going to have a home inspector up here and also a home appraiser. And so you're going to get different perspectives. And the question of, selling my home, should I fix everything? Should I sell it as is? Or where in between? So it's going to be a really great seminar today. If this is your first time, so bathrooms are out the door to the left. And then also, we put these on free for our seniors in our community and in the Williamson County area. And with the support of our educational partners, and you can all wave to the folks over here. So if Susie and Sarah Elizabeth could come on up. Every month we have a pen sponsor and a water sponsor. So, and there's never any sales pressure tactics, but we do believe in seniors planning smarter. So feel free to get to know these folks. They're amazing people to talk with and provide amazing services. So Susie, tell us about you and what you do and who you work with, and Sarah Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Ferris. I'm with Heart to Heart Hospice. What my role is, I'm the community education coordinator, so I do education when it comes down to hospice. So our goal with hospice is we always want to make sure we keep you in your home as long as possible and take care of you where you call home. If that's a home, assisted living, independent living, or skilled nursing. If you guys are not familiar with hospice, but we do provide nursing care, aid services, social worker and chaplain support, and we're just there for the end-of-life care. So when you or your loved one gets to a point where they just don't want to go to the doctor anymore, to the hospital and get poked and prodded, and you were diagnosed with a terminal illness, call us. We would love to come in and help you guys. I'm really big about education too, so today I actually brought home health versus hospice. Again, education is the key, and it's so important to know hospice early so that when that time comes, you can make the right decision for your loved one.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Elizabeth Persisepi. I'm with Rainey & Rainey. We are an elder law and estate planning firm right here in Georgetown. We also have an office in Waco, and we service everywhere in between. We focus on estate planning, trust planning, powers of attorney, long-term care planning, Medicaid, probate, guardianship, and special needs planning. If you have a loved one that you would like to make arrangements for that has special needs and we want to preserve those benefits. If you have any questions about the ways that we can help you, I'd love to chat with you. I'm very passionate about our work, and I am very proud of the attorneys that I work for. So please ask me questions. I'd love to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you. So again, in today's seminar, I want to make sure your questions get answered. So some people don't like, we'll have a Q&A at the end, but some people don't like talking in front of big groups. So I will be available after. And then I'm going to go ahead and ask our panelists to come up. So we've got Doug Reeves as our appraiser and Matthew Kenny as our home inspector. And they're going to make their way here quickly. And we'll be available after as well. So if you don't feel like asking questions in front of the big group, you can ask them individually. So who here thinks that when you go to sell your home, excuse me, you should fix pretty much everything and make it like tip-top shape? We got a few hands. And who here says the idea of just putting a for sale sign and saying you get what you get sounds appealing too? Is that appealing to anybody? I see a few hands. Well, both of those answers can be right, and most often it's usually somewhere in the middle. And so as we go throughout our seminar today, We're going to talk about from the perspective of a real estate agent, and that's what I do. I help folks sell their homes and buy homes, and a lot in the Sun City area. And then we have the perspective of an appraiser, and then we have the perspective of a home inspector. So, but let's first talk about selling as is and what that really means. So the idea, when you say sell as is, some people think that just means I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to put a sign, up in the yard and not do a thing to it. That happens on occasion, but it's not really common. And I can ask these gentlemen here, like oftentimes we see sometimes with, if there's an executor of an estate who maybe lives out of the state and doesn't want to deal with the repairs or deal with things, they just say, I don't want to deal with it, sell it. And then there's a price difference that's going to be associated with it, right? You're not going to pay top dollar for a home that you go in and have to make, lots of repairs or replace roofs or AC units. And then, but somewhere, like I said, there's that middle ground. Most often, when you say, I want to sell as is, you're sort of, kind of in the middle where you want to fix the major things. You don't want to put lipstick on a pig, so to speak, and cover things up, but you do want to present your home in a way that the perception is there to get as much money as you can. So Doug, tell us, we're going to push the pause button. Tell us about you. Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, and then we'll go to Matthew. Tell us a bit about you.
Thanks, Vince. My name's Doug Reeves. I'm a real estate appraiser here in the Central Texas area. I've been an appraiser for about 30 years, and I am also a broker and do some remodeling projects. I'm also a real estate investor. So I'm familiar with the Central Texas market very well and have done a lot of different kinds of appraisals and valuations in this area.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Kenny. I'm with Armadillo Inspection. I've worn a few different hats over the years. When I was in school, I was an engineer, civil engineer. Then when I got out, I did commercial construction, high rises, office buildings. I did power plants, all sorts of things. Then I got into custom home building when I came here to Texas. I was a custom home builder out in Lakeway for several years. Didn't enjoy that. Not something I'd go back to. And then that just kind of dovetailed into home inspecting. And then, of course, I'm also a homeowner, and I've bought homes and sold homes, so I try and keep that all in perspective when I'm doing inspections, and try and remember that it can be personal, and there's a lot of emotions involved in selling your home, and I try and keep that in mind.
Great, thank you, gentlemen. One thing I also wanted to say is that, when here in Texas, when you put a home up for sale, most buyers will negotiate what we call an option period. And that means that they pay you a small fee, usually $150, $200 for 7 days or 10 days. And that gives them the right to have an inspection. And so in that option period, they can have Matthew come in and do an inspection, the buyer can, and then they find a few areas, and then your real estate agent will negotiate with their real estate agent for any repairs during that option period. And if you can't come to an agreement, sometimes we extend it. Most often you come to some agreement. The seller agrees to repair certain items, or what we find also is sometimes the seller will say, I hear what you're saying, but I don't want to mess with that. I'm just going to give you $1,000, and the buyer, you can fix it. So you give a seller concession. But one of the things, too, I think is important, and Doug and I had this conversation, that I think we want to give some time to is value versus market pricing and listing price. So as a real estate agent, there's a method that we have is that we look at in the area, and typically if you have a 2,000 square foot home, we take 80% of that, so we go down 20% and we go up 20%, and we compare square footage in that range. If you have a one-story home, I'm going to compare your home to other one-story homes. I'm not going to compare a 2,000 square foot one-story home to a 4,000 square foot two-story home. So we want like homes. And then we go and we look at what is active, sold, pending, and then we kind of come up with a picture. And it says, in your area, in your neighborhood, here are other homes that have sold, and here's what's active now. We'll look at trends over the last, few months, and then we arrive at a listing price. Now, what people don't understand is that is very different. As real estate agents, we cannot provide a value, and it's semantics and terminology, but I'm going to punt it to you, Doug, because you and I had this conversation on the phone. So talk to us about that.
Well, first I have to say what Vince is describing is what a competent real estate agent will do. There are plenty of real estate agents out there that will not do it that way. I'm just telling you. So having an agent that understands your market is critical. It absolutely is, because they're going to be able to give you the best advice on what is the best thing to do with the house. What Vince is alluding to is that he can price a house, and he can price it wherever he wants based on your agreement and the information that you're looking at. A real estate agent that really knows a neighborhood well can pretty much just decide, we have the best house and we're going to price it here. This is our strategy. An appraiser has to go in and has a more conservative approach, which I believe is created by the lender. The lender has certain things that they want us to do because they're going to collateralize the loan. So there's a value tends to be associated in today's world with what a lender will lend. So it's going to be a little more conservative, whereas a broker could just know this house is going to sell for more. You're on a premium spot, you have the best view, you have the best pool, you're going to sell for more. And once you get that actual sales contract, which is a willing buyer, willing seller, and they set that price, an appraiser, it's much easier for an appraiser to then go in and say, well, that's plausible, we'll come and try to support it. But if it's a very high price, or you're the very best, and I know all of you have heard, you don't want to be the best house in your neighborhood, right? And that's because all the rest are dragging you down. It's because you're the highest, and so that means you don't have anything that really has shown that. You're going to be the leader if you're the best. And so that's where an appraiser may be a problem, but a good agent will tell you, hey, we may have a problem with the appraisal, but we're going to get our contract price. And then we're just going to worry about how much money they're putting down. Are they going to sign the ability to terminate the contract via where a buyer says, we don't care what the appraisal comes in at, we'll pay the difference. Your good realtor will negotiate that for you. But if you're the very best house, then that's a good example of where pricing, we know people will pay that, even if we don't have great comps and data for a lender to, an appraiser to use for a lender.
That's good. As a real estate agent, one of the best calls we can ever get is when the lender or my client says, we have the appraisal back and it met appraisal. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. And so, but a good agent that is skilled at it, and it's not always perfect, but usually if you do your homework, you and the appraiser are close.
Yes.
You're not always accurate, but you're pretty close. And as Doug alluded to, there are options. If you don't make appraisal, you know, depending on what type of loan that you have and the paperwork that you've signed, you can sometimes go back to, the buyer can come back to the seller and say, hey, I offered you $350, but it only appraised for $325. Can we negotiate on this? And sometimes sellers will be like, no. Usually, you're far enough along in this process, right? By the time you get the appraisal back, and Lori, our lender, can tell me, but you're 20 plus days into this, right, already. You're invested, you know. So usually if it doesn't meet appraisal, there's some negotiation that happens, right? Because an independent person has come out, not an agency. I'm the fiduciary, I'm the representative for the seller if I'm on the sell side. The appraiser is a neutral party, as it were, but they're working for the lender. They're not working for the buyer or the seller. Did I say that right?
We're
Lori?
working for the lender.
Yeah, working for the lender. So they have a very, I think, a more objective tone. But go ahead.
But you have a vehicle. So I think there's probably people in this room that probably have one of the nicest, best conditioned houses, maybe on the best lot. When you're in that situation and the comps are not great, Vince has a vehicle to protect you from that negotiation, which is the right to terminate due to the lender's appraisal. It's a TREC form that they came out with during COVID, because after COVID, we would get a house would be listed for $499, and somebody from California would come in and say, we'll pay you $701. Okay, and they'd have 25 offers. And so TREC had to create this extra contract or extra addendum, because realtors were writing in legalese into the contract saying, we'll pay cash for anything that, and they're not allowed to do that. So TREC had to come out with a form. So if you have the nicest house and your broker tells you it will sell for more, then you know that when you get the offer that comes in at 701, okay, and you're also going to sign the waiver that says, even if the appraisal comes in low, and even if our lender says that this is all they're going to loan us, we have the money to pay. So if you have the best house and the biggest house and the nicest one in the neighborhood, and your realtor says it's going to price higher, it's going to punch above everyone else's, that's Vince's vehicle to protect you. If you're the seller.
Yeah, that's so good, Doug. You know, one of the things that I've had the conversation with folks lately is, if you're like me, you remember what your home was worth back in 2021, 22. And it was a lot more on paper than what it's worth now. And some people want to list their home. Well, back right after COVID hit, it was worth $100,000 more. I said, yes, it was, but not now, you know. And so I've called those affectionately the unicorn years, that 2021, 22. They just were odd. They weren't real. And the market, and people could agree or disagree, I don't think the market could have handled that for too long. It just went out of control because, like Doug said, people, I think, were printing money in their basements. I don't know. Cash came out of nowhere, and people were buying cash. And I could put a sign in the yard in 2021, and by the time I got back to my office, I had 10 offers all over asking price, and some were even waiving inspection. Like, buyers said, I don't care what's wrong with the house, I just want to buy it. And so we're not there anymore. It was sort of a really chaotic time. So right now, the market, I think, is normalizing. The market's not crashing. It's just normalizing. So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I can tell you where the money was coming from. California. That's the first thing we would look at on a contract if it looked crazy. Where's the borrower from? Oh, California. Now, I'm being obviously facetious, but that's truthful.
We love California.
Yeah, they were coming
I'm a recovering Californian, so don't judge me, okay?
And that describes very well the difference between a price opinion, in other words, Vince would know, like, we can get this, and a value, because the value wasn't there, because the data wasn't there, because it was an undue stimulus of this influx of people with a lot of money from the houses they sold and COVID, all at once, creating a panic and a fervor that the bank doesn't want to collateralize panic and fervor. They want a more sober-minded idea of what the property is going to be worth. And so until all of the comps come in and catch up, you can be out in front of it. But again, you have a way of protecting yourself, which is that waiver.
And now we're in a much more stable market, that we're not seeing those extreme, price swings. Which I think is good for sellers and buyers ultimately. So how many of you live in a home that's 10 years old? How about 20 years old? Your home is 20 years old, 25 years old. Okay, so between 20 and 25 years old, that's several people. So Matthew, talk to us about typically What are some things that you're seeing in homes in that 20, 25, 30-year-old range that you're coming up against?
Yeah, that's a good point. Can I see the hands again for 20 plus? Okay. Yep, you're where I am as well. A lot of your equipment starts to deteriorate. Obviously, like HVAC systems have about a 15 to 20 year life expectancy. Roofing, even when they say it's a 30-year shingle, that doesn't mean it's going to last 30 years. It's manufactured to last 30 years in a perfect environment. The warranty that you have there is only for manufacturing defects. It doesn't protect against wind, hail, any kind of storm. So same thing, 20, 25 years on a roof if you're lucky. You get water heaters, they're typically about 15 years old. They start to deteriorate as well. So those are the types of things I see over and over with that age home. And of course, there's some deferred maintenance. That's a term we like to use, deferred maintenance. Basically just things that haven't been repaired. Holes in drywall, appliances that are coming apart, cracks in drywall, ponding around foundations, things that just haven't been kept up with over the years and maintained.
So let me ask you a quick question. So in homes that are 20, 25 years or older, we've seen a lot of code changes, right? And so when you do an inspection today, your inspection is against current code, or can you go back to when that home was built?
It's a good question. So it's a little bit of both. And we're not code inspectors. You know, if you talk to any home inspector, they really harp on that. In my opinion, we are. I mean, the building code is based on safety and is based on function. So in a sense, we are, even if we're not working for the city. What I do in my reports is I will note anything that's safety related that was a code change. For example, carbon monoxide alarms. They weren't in the code until very recently, but they should have been. They should have been for a long time. Whenever you have a gas appliance or a garage or even a fireplace, you need a carbon monoxide alarm. If your house was built in the 80s, or even the 90s, you didn't have those, but that's something that I would note in my report that needs to be updated. We talk a lot about grandfathering. That's a term that gets thrown around a lot. There is no grandfathering when it comes to safety, so that's something I discuss with my buyers a lot, that if it's going to be a safety concern, that's something that you do need to update. Smoke alarms, any kind of electrical that's outdated or is dangerous, you'd want to see that taken care of as well.
That's good. So would you ever recommend a pre-listing inspection? And Doug, I'm going to ask you the same question. So even from your personal experience, would you ever recommend, so typically you put your house up for sale and you get an offer and the buyer hires someone like Matthew to come in and do a thorough inspection, and they find so many things. But sometimes sellers say, you know what, I want to get ahead of the game. I want to hire someone to go through my house and tell me everything that's wrong. And then I can know, because we were laughing earlier, when you, in real estate, it can be sort of an emotional roller coaster. There's probably 1,000 points from the beginning to the end that could derail the whole thing, right? I mean, it could be one thing that could throw things sideways. And so sometimes you have this beautiful home, maybe some deferred maintenance, some things you didn't notice, or you moved a piece of furniture, this has happened, that has been in the same place for 30 years, and there was a slow leak behind the wall, and there's mold behind. You know, these things happen. So, but some people will opt to have a pre-listing inspection and to go into it knowing exactly what they need to fix or not. What would you recommend? And this is no right or wrong, this is an opinion question.
Yes, and it is very much an opinion, and I do have a strong opinion on it. It's a tricky question because there's pros and cons to having a pre-listing inspection, there really is. If you do have one, you can do what they call a 4-point inspection, which is just basically your roof, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. And then sometimes they'll throw in the foundation and that. What you're looking for is the big ticket items. Those I recommend, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. There are companies out there who specialize in just those 4-point inspections. That's going to let you know if you need to make any major repairs. Now, if you're looking for a detailed, full pre-listing inspection, that's where I start to waver a little bit for a couple reasons. One, sometimes it's an emotional process, right? And so if you've been living in your home and you've put so much love and care and attention into your home, and it becomes a part of you, and to have somebody come in and then just give you a 50-page report and say, all this is wrong, and then that nice wall that you put in the dining room needs to come out, and you've got cracks in the floor because this wasn't taken care of. It's hard to take, and I've been on that receiving end as well. So you have to kind of take emotion out of it, and even then, there's an issue that comes up with disclosure. So if I do a full, complete pre-listing inspection, in some cases, and Vince can talk more on this, but in some cases you're required to disclose that to a potential seller. Now, sometimes that can be a marketing opportunity, right? You can say, hey, we've already had this home inspected, and here's the report, and here's all the stuff that we fixed, and a potential buyer may like that. On the flip side, you may spend a whole lot of money making repairs that aren't necessary, or that a potential buyer may not even care about. You may make some repairs and they come in and they say, yeah, but we don't like this, or we still feel like you should have paid more attention to the HVAC system and had that upgraded. And then you are left with saying, well, what did we spend all this money for? What do we have this inspection for? So you need to keep all that in mind when you do a pre-listing inspection. For example, if I still have a little time, my mother up in Massachusetts, she just sold her home, and being a home inspector, she reached out to me, and I told her, we had an outdated, obsolete electrical panel. I said, you want to replace that?
Did you charge her for that?
I did not. I did not. No, she gave me free room and board for several years, so I figured that was payback. And she did. She made those corrections, but she also went above and beyond. She spent probably $20,000 having the house painted inside, which can be good, but there was nothing wrong with it really to begin with. It was pretty good. She just changed the color. And the people who bought it came in and said, we hate this color. Why did you change it? And she spent all that money, and I said, well, that's kind of what we're talking about here. So it depends on the situation. Absolutely, I think you should know and prepare yourself for what you're getting into with a potential buyer, but not go overboard and try and fix everything. Some of it, you may even want to have a sacrificial lamb that that something a buyer may want repaired, and that's okay. Even if you fixed everything, there's still going to be one or two items that they're going to want done.
Yeah. Doug, what do you think? Pre-listing inspection, again, no right or wrong answer.
Well, actually, I have the right answer for you.
I knew you would.
This question, and many of the questions, can seem overwhelming, and in different situations. There's one thing that you need. You need a realtor who knows your market, because they're going to know what the deal is. What are the things that need to be fixed? Do we need to do this? For instance, during that COVID time, having it pre-inspected was a great thing, because you'd get it pre-inspected, the agent would put it right up there and say, guess what? This is our price, and we already know what all's wrong with it. So don't even bother sending us a contract if you're going to try to negotiate off of these things. So in that kind of market, maybe it is, and your agent would know, this is our strategy, we use it all the time, it works great, we're gonna do this, and it's worth it. In a down market, it's not good to be bringing up a whole bunch of problems with your house ahead of time, right? So the market area, whether you're in Sun City or if you're in an outerlying Georgetown area, it's going to be a different plan. And the agent is the one who can take this away from you. So your agent should not be your cousin or whatever from nearby who can get it done. Really, a good agent who knows your market is going to advise you the best. And you're not going to have to think about these kind of things. And believe me, to me, that's the most valuable thing. When you know they're going to be able to take you through the whole process from inspection to the right lender, which is huge. The right lender and being able to, these sort of addendums and things that protect you, and a strategy that they give you where you can understand their pricing and you understand how they came up with it and you understand the strategy. That's when you know you got the right realtor. And you should interview a few, or at least know the one in your neighborhood who is very well recommended and very well respected and knows your neighborhood, because each plan is going to change with the neighborhood, right? And then you don't have to think about these kind of things like, should I get an inspection or shouldn't I? Because you're not a professional and you're paying a lot of money to a realtor to do it well for you and get you the best price. Yeah. I really recommend that because that's what I truly believe.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, it really starts with communication. It really starts with having that communication and trust because it's a big deal, right? Selling your home. And if you're on the buy side, buying a home, these are you know, life-changing things for most of us. You know, if you ask most of us questions specifically, a lot of times the answer is it depends, right? It depends on your specific situation. Oftentimes, the blanket answer won't fit. In my opinion, a pre-listing inspection, I agree with Matthew. You know, I don't know that it always meets the objectives and goals that you have set for yourself. And on a seller disclosure notice, and this is a form that's required for sellers to provide to potential buyers, there's a question on one of those forms that says, have you had an inspection? I think it's in the last 4 years. And if you have, excuse me, then you're required to provide a copy of that inspection. So think about that. You know, it's your home exposed to everything. Now, so I think you have to be strategic about that.
For clarity, you're not going to get an inspection and then say, I don't like this one. That's the deal. You're stuck with that inspection. I don't think it's a good strategy unless you know your house and the market is smoking hot. Yeah. Maybe a different kind of inspection where you're coming in just doing a few things, but I honestly think the only things you're going to repair are things that would otherwise leave the house distressed. My AC isn't working. You don't want to try to sell your house like that.
Yeah.
Let the inspector find it, but everything looks good. The appraiser is just going to look. He is not he's just going to go, okay, this all looks good. He's going to rely on the inspector. But if you get an inspection, you're stuck with it. You're not going to get to shop that.
And if I could add to that, there are different types of inspectors out there. I mean, we're all licensed by the state. We all have to use the same state form, but there are different personalities involved in inspectors. There are some inspectors that are, how can I put this being nicely? They are particular. And they are panicky. They'll write up everything like it's the end of the world, and they'll write up, a missing door stop like the house is going to fall down. And it's like, it's not really a big deal. Or they'll refer everything out to further evaluation by a licensed structural engineer because there's a crack in the drywall, a small crack that's cosmetic. Or they'll say, you need a licensed master electrician to come evaluate the rest of your property because one of the outlets doesn't work. I mean, that's crazy. That is not, in my opinion, that's not helpful. That's not helping the buyer or the seller. If you get one of those people doing your pre-listing inspection and now you have to disclose that report, that's something that could cause problems in the future.
And one of the things I appreciate about Matthew, he and I have worked together for several years now, is, on the buy side, he can produce really, the teachers who use the red ink, like, and, he'll color code his, and you just go through, it's red and red and red. But he does a great job of walking potential buyers through and really kind of saying, here are things to really consider. Like, even, we were saying, even new homes now can have more issues than resale homes. Like, it's a real
Absolutely.
thing. But I also want to, back to something Matthew said, without fail, when you have a home for sale, a buyer will want to know those big ticket items. What's the age of the AC? Have you had regular maintenance? Do you have a new roof? How old is the roof? The furnace, the foundation. I mean, these are, like you said, these are big ticket items that again, think about this. If you're going to drop $400,000, $500,000 on a house, you want a roof that's not going to leak, or you want, an AC, especially here in Texas. So those are big ticket items that people do ask about routinely. So be mindful of that. Doug, did you have something you were going to say?
Just that goes back to having a good realtor, because your realtor is going to refer you to a person, an inspector, that knows if a realtor is going to have that strategy, he better have the right inspector for you. So a really good realtor is going to have everything, the lender, all these little points that can set you off. A good realtor who closes a lot of transactions is going to have the lender, the inspector, and in the end, the lender is going to also have the best appraisers. So you got to have a really good realtor if you're going to do this. Otherwise, you're on your own. And if you have a great house in a great location, it's in perfect condition, I suppose that maybe that might work, but you're going to have headaches for sure.
And I think a good real estate agent that comes alongside you to help you sell your house, they're going to have a plan. They're going to look at what are the potential pain points in selling a home, especially as a senior. And they're going to say, okay, we help with the downsizing. We can connect you with people. We have property prep specialists who can come and look at the house, and we have trusted vendors and contractors that do work in your area that we can vouch for, that we use routinely. That, I don't know about you, but have you ever said, well, I've got a leaky faucet or some electrical thing, who do I call? Some of you have the person you call, but sometimes we don't. So then you're left to asking a neighbor, a friend, going on Google, looking at how many Google reviews. And so I think a good agent's going to have a cache of people that you can say, hey, I've got this here. I talk to these 3 electricians to do what you need to do. It's $300. Would you like me to schedule that and coordinate that for you? That's what a good real estate agent's going to do. That's how we run our business, is that we try to anticipate and communicate everything that you might need and to have those trusted people. And like Doug said, it is from the lender. Lori, back there, wave your hand. We just closed a transaction last Friday, and on the buy side, and my clients had nothing. I mean, you're angelic. They were just like, oh, like she didn't know how to wire money. So Lori went to their house and met them and helped them wire money. Like, that's the heart behind what we do, and it's really about surrounding yourself with people who have a like mission and a servant's heart. And so I thank you. Shout out to you, Lori. Thank you so much. So let's move over to deferred maintenance. Now we talked about this. So Doug, tell us about this. You and I had a good conversation around deferred maintenance. How does that impact value? And talk to us, and then we'll also segue into perception. So deferred maintenance, and then Matthew, I want your take on that.
So deferred maintenance is maintenance that should have been done to the home by now and has not been. So that's probably not any of y'all's homes, I would presume. That's more like my house. But what it does is it changes the condition of the house. And so if a realtor is showing you a comp of a house that was in good or excellent condition, that could then give you the false idea that your house is going to be worth that, Whereas when the appraisal gets done, the appraiser is going to find a house that had deferred maintenance that's at a lower. Now, that's going to be very hard for you to determine based on whatever the agent's telling you at the time, because you haven't been inside these other houses or gone in a deep dive of photos or have the ability to see all the little things. But if you have deferred maintenance, it'll change your condition rating and change the comps. But I'm not a big fan of going in and doing much. Now, let's say you're in the unfortunate situation where you have the wrong color walls or whatever for design issues, or maybe you had a cat or something like that. And there are things that a really good agent is telling you, we should take care of this before we fix the house. Right, you got the
shag carpet, may want to
or
consider.
the dog has done a little scratching here and there, and it's just overwhelming. What will a really good agent have for you? They'll have the contractor that can come in and do it. The whole thing, right? We're going to paint these walls, we're going to do this. If you get in that situation and the realtor shows you, if we sell it as is, it's going to be X. If we sell it, if we do these few things, it's going to be Y. And the difference between Y and X is much greater than the cost it'll take. Well, that's called a curable obsolescence. In other words, you can cure it because you're going to make money. Incurable obsolescence is it'll cost you more to fix it than it's going to get you back. A really good realtor, if they're going to guide you in this and say, we have to paint these walls because they're such a terrible color, is going to be able to provide you with the opportunity to do so and show you the gain versus loss, that this is a curable thing, and take you A to B and all the way to Z, obviously. So,
and can I interject here?
Yeah.
And part of it is a good realtor is going to come in with buyer's eyes, and a good realtor is going to give you the truth. And it may not be the price you thought it might be, but any realtor could come in and say, how much do you think your home is worth? $1 million? Let's list it for $1 million. And then it's on the market for 6 months or a year, and you just keep going down and down. So bad strategy. But a good realtor is going to come in with, and is the red wall, do you like your red wall? I'm sure you do. It's beautiful for you. Will a buyer like the red wall? Maybe, maybe not. As a general rule, we try to neutralize colors throughout the house. We have a listing going on the market here in Sun City that happened, the real case. It was a beautiful red wall, but it made the living room a little dark. And so we painted the wall neutral. There was a light blue bedroom. We left it, right?
You say you were painting it?
I did not paint it, yes. That's my other job, in the painter. No, we had trusted contractors that we work with, that we get those bids for our clients, and then they make the ultimate decision, right? Sellers are always in the driver's seat. If you ever feel like you're not in the driver's seat, you're not in the right relationship. A good realtor is going to advise you and give you options. But like Doug said, I mean, it could be, and that's often talk about big bang for your buck. And you know, my wife, love you, sweetheart, loves color in our homes. And but when you go to sell your home, you've got to be mindful. And again, in this home, there was a peach color office.
She loved it, though.
She loved, yeah.
It worked with her stuff.
Yeah. And so there was a jackfruit yellow laundry room, and so we had to make some changes, you know. And that's a really bright yellow. I learned that.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, jackfruit yellow is just very bright. So, but again, a good agent's going to come through with buyer's eyes, and it's not to offend. It's just you want to sell your home for the highest price, right? So they're going to make and suggest those changes.
Well, not to make it about realtors, but this may be the best thing you'll get here is how to tell whether you have the right realtor, right? Because the one who's active in your neighborhood will know what the current design elements are, and they're not just going to tell you, you need to do this or that. They're going to tell you, if you do this or that, then our list price will be here, and I will show you a contract which will be much less than the difference. So it's just the steps with picking a realtor is what I'm saying to get a good realtor, right? They're not just going to tell you, we need to do this and we need to do that, right? So what is that going to get me?
Yeah.
As opposed to me selling it as is? Because that sounds like a real pain to me.
Yeah.
Right? And they're contractors. Are they going to be in and out? How quickly are they going to get in and out? And how much are they going to cost? These little things are reasonable things for you to, if we're going to price at the highest price, are we going to be able to ask for an appraisal waiver? Just these little things that an agent should be able to tell you. If they really are good in your neighborhood, and they've closed lots of deals in your neighborhood, they've seen what's inside these houses, they know what you need to do to be commensurate to these houses that have sold at the sales price you're hoping.
You've got to trust
And how
the
long?
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to trust the process. So earlier we talked about deferred maintenance and perception. And so when an appraiser walks in a house, you're not getting kind of, down and dirty and things. There's a perception that you have that you're going to make a valuation based on.
Which should be the same perception that a buyer has. So little things that you can do, obviously, I think a group like this is already doing those things. You don't have stuff leaning against the house, the lawn is taken care of, the bushes are trimmed. Those kind of things are things you should do for perception, so that the appraiser, I have an appraiser, she will do a $20 million house, she's not even scared. All my other guys are like, oh my God, 20 million. But if she goes to a house and there's laundry left out, she's insulted. Now, I think that's an extreme example, but I'm not so sure there's not extreme people out there, like extreme inspectors. You want it to look good, right? You want it to look good and do the best you can to make it look good when the appraiser gets there. And that's a big deal. You don't need an aggressive dog that's gonna, there's things that set people off, right? And inspectors and appraisers and buyers are all human beings. So you want the most pleasant atmosphere you can provide with what you have without spending a bunch of money, unless a realtor has told you, if we spend this money, we're gonna get something extra for it, right? Yeah. So make it look as good as you can, and obviously, like you said, safety things. If there's something that is just an obvious safety thing, you're gonna wanna take care of that and make sure, because that will offend somebody if they think that they've been, put in a position of unsafety. But I don't think this room is that kind of room. Yeah. Those are investors, out-of-state investors that have houses that they're renting that we go into. I think most of these people here are gonna have their house at the peak that it is capable of. It's only if, is there something that we can do that by spending money is going to gain more? And the realtor should be able to line that out for you with very good competency and clarity. Otherwise, you go somewhere else. And
so Matthew, so you're different in the inspection aspect. It's not about perception. You're checking and lifting and poking and prodding and all those things. So tell us about your perspective as an inspector.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm getting down into the nitty-gritty details of everything, but
you'll even get under a house.
Oh yeah, I have to crawl under the house, and you wouldn't believe the things I see under there: snakes and raccoons and possums and it's tarantulas. It's not the funnest part of the job. I think you could kind of sum up what we're talking about here with it's first impressions, right? When somebody walks in, what's their first impression? Is there an odor in the house because you have pets? That's a turn off for a lot of buyers. Deferred maintenance, like what we were talking about. For example, when I walk into my sister's house 2 weeks ago, and I walked in, and the first thing I saw was a stain on her kitchen ceiling. And I said, how long has that water stain been there? And she said, I don't know. I've never noticed it before. And I said, how could you not notice? It's right there. And she said, well, I live here. I never look up. I live here. And that sounds silly, but it's kind of true. You kind of get blind to some of the things that are going on right in front of you, right in your own home, where somebody walking in with a fresh set of eyes and an unbiased opinion, it jumps out at them. So yeah, things like that for deferred maintenance, small leaks that are easy to repair, that's something that needs to be jumped on. This is gonna sound just so unbelievably simple, but it is so important that light bulbs. When I walk into a house and I go through and there are light bulbs missing in several areas, or just I turn on a light and it doesn't work. Most home inspectors are only there for 2 hours or so, 2 or 3 hours, and they only have that amount of time to see what they can see. So when a light doesn't turn on, they're not going up, getting a ladder, getting into the ceiling and taking apart that light fixture to see if there's still power there or if it's just a light bulb. And so what do? They write it up as seek further evaluation by an electrician to find out what's going on there. That just causes a whole hiccup in the operation, because now you've got to get an electrician out there to look at it, and all he says is, yeah, change the light bulb and it's done.
And I'll take it one step further. Have the same color light bulbs in a 4-bulb ceiling fan. Don't have cool white, daylight, bright light. Just all one color, and you'll be surprised, because again, it's about perception. Because if you took the time to do that, then the perception is that you're taking care of your home. You're doing other little things that your home will be top notch. But I interrupted you, Matthew. Sorry.
No, you're exactly right. And as a home inspector, I try and just be very factual. I don't give my opinion on whether or not it should be purchased or not. I just say these are the facts. This is what needs to be fixed, and here you go. Because I don't know if you're getting a great deal on the house. I don't even know the price of the house a lot of times. So I try and take that part out of it. But like fixing the light bulbs right there, that's just taking a whole section of your process out of the equation. Now you don't have to have that electrician in there. You don't have to have a third party come in and take care of that. That's something that's very easy to be done. And when I'm going over these things with the buyer and I'm discussing these issues, I can see what's going on in the buyer's mind. They're saying, okay, if these are the things that we can see, what can't we see? Right? If all these very obvious things are not fixed and the things that are very easy to fix are not fixed, what are the things that I can't see? What are in the walls? What's under the insulation? What's the foundation doing? It just gives the wrong mindset to a potential buyer. Cosmetics aside, obviously there's updating of colors and appliances, but that's more preferential, and that changes. What's old is new again. Shag carpet. I mean, I've seen people start putting that back in these new multi-million-dollar homes. They love it. Next, it'll be avocado green appliances again. You never know. Yeah.
One thing that's certainly that goes along with that, which is a non-question that you would do, goes with cleanliness, the house smelling good, clean windows. You wouldn't, I mean, just really sparkling clean windows gives such a, that's the eyes of the home. That goes to lighting, that goes to everything. A really, and that takes a little while, but it's not super costly, and it's something that would, I guarantee you, pay results.
Yeah, that's so good. I was talking to Jan right before this and talking about some renovations she had made in her home. But standard, when we list homes, we get the home deep clean, windows washed, and usually power wash the driveway. You may say, Vince, really? But no, really. Because I even think the impression is made before they walk in the front door. I think when they pull up to the curb, they're already scanning, already looking. And they're making a decision before they get out of the car.
First impressions, right?
Well, a good example is when I find a comparable sale that seems to be low for the neighborhood. And so I have to explain that, because I can't just not use it. With AI today, the lenders see the sale, everybody knows it, so I can't just not use it. So I have to go look at it and look at the photos and decide, why did this sell low? Well, inevitably, what you'll see in the first photo is the grass is all grown up and the landscaping hasn't been taken care of. And then as you start going through it, you'll start seeing some smudging, some weird colored walls, something else. So you'll find these things, and it will explain why this sold for lower, so that I can explain it to the lender when I'm trying to say, well, my house is different than that. My house was not smudgy. So it's just the dinginess and the decor and how it looks, which is something that you can handle for sure. It's unquestionable you're going to do that. for sure you're going to do those things.
So, Matthew, let me ask you something. So, if you walked into a house and it was well kept, is there a slightly different lens that you look through a house with? Kind of maybe a little less biased versus, again, I know you're going to do everything the same, but do you feel, even from an inspector standpoint, like, oh, okay, versus, oh, okay? Like, what's that, when you walk into a home that's this or that?
Yeah, that's true, and some of that's human nature, obviously. But I can usually tell within the first 5 minutes how the rest of the inspection is going to go. And a lot of that comes down to deferred maintenance. You can tell if things are being maintained, it's like that everywhere. People who have pride in their homes. There are some homes that, when I walk into and I start seeing little things wrong, then I start looking closer and closer and closer and finding more and more and more. So yeah, there's a human component to the whole deferred maintenance thing as well, where I'm not saying that I'm slacking off, but I'm certainly in a better mood, and I'm certainly not. There's a lot of DIY on some of the homes that I inspect. Not that that's not allowed. Some of it is very
Questionable.
questionable.
DIY being that they've done some work themselves, maybe
Yeah.
not to code.
Yeah. A lot of homeowner repairs, which is great. There are some homeowners out there that can run circles around some of these builders that I see here. But there's also some that, you're just splicing together two wires, and I can see it sparking as I turn on the light switch. Stuff like that, you better believe I'm going to spend a lot more time looking into those items, because I want the buyer to be safe. And by the way, I'm not one of those panicky inspectors. I feel like in most things I'm very middle ground, and I'm very realistic and very calm when I'm presenting to the buyers, because that's life. I mean, you can't be one extreme or the other. But when you see things like that, it's the buyer gets the idea.
And I do want to say that wherever you are at in the spectrum of no deferred maintenance, some or a lot, there's always a path forward. There's always a journey. Don't, if you say, wow, a year from now, 6 months, good team around you can get you to where you need to be, and it won't be completely overwhelming. Some people go, oh, I don't know where to start. You don't have to do it by yourself. So, but again, I'm aware that some people are like, that's overwhelming. I have been in my house for 40 years, and I haven't done certain things.
And I start every conversation that I have with my buyers. After the inspection, I sit down with them, and one of the first things that I say is, there is no such thing as a perfect house. There's not. And I tell them, I said, if you want a perfect house and you're going to go buy one from a builder, brand new, those are some of my longest inspection reports, is the new construction. There's a lot going on there. So I tell them, look, if you're looking for perfection, you better get out of this trade, because you're not going to find it. And I said, and there's certain things in my own house as a builder and as a home inspector, my own house doesn't pass 100% on these reports. There are some things that I just don't care about, or the code says that it's supposed to be this way, but it kind of gets in my way. My house isn't perfect either. That's okay. It doesn't have to be. And I tell them everything on my report doesn't need to be fixed, but you should know about it and make those decisions on your own. And then there's some other safety-related items that absolutely they should be fixed, or a new roof or a foundation. Absolutely, those should be fixed. But I don't want everybody out here thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to go home and I've got to fix everything that I can find, because that's just not realistic. And that's just not going to happen ever. And people are aware of that. Buyers are aware of that. And if they're not, I'm going to make them aware of that, so that relieves some of the panic that sets in.
Yeah, that's good. In your packet, real quick, this document here says the top cost recovery for remodeling projects. And so this is a national study. So it may, like it talks about basement conversion. Well, we don't have many basements around these parts. So, but this is a national. But if you pull that out, look at the top two, new steel front door, closet renovation, and a new front door brought in the highest return on investment, which I thought was interesting. And also windows, what else we have? Minor kitchen upgrade. Talk to us about kitchens and upgrades, and what do y'all think about that? Do you remodel the whole thing? Do you?
Well, again, it's going to really depend, and if you're going to do it, you should have really good guidance on what is the expected minimum. Each neighborhood is going to be different. You know, if I'm doing a really high-end house and it has something that shouldn't be in there, or you can over-improve, like painting your walls when you don't need to. So I think the real thing that y'all are going to take away is the perception, the easy things you can do for perception, having good guidance from a realtor who knows that neighborhood. If it is true that the agent can tell you that if we remodel, if we do a light remodel in this kitchen, and I expect if we're talking about houses 20 years or younger, it's going to be a light remodel, right? And really not even a remodel. It's really called an update. Remodel says that you're moving walls and reconfiguring. If you're just painting the cabinets or something simple, maybe you do go with some new countertops. Maybe you have some tile countertops that are just unattractive, that whatever, and they decide they want a modern countertop in there, and it's going to bring a return. The agent should be able to tell you that and give you pricing and your return. And so kitchen remodels are very expensive. I think that updates are more feasible in that, because normally in a house that young, it's going to be a functional kitchen. It's not going to be like a 1950s kitchen where there's you know, a few cabinets and a stove sitting over here, and you know that's different. And those houses, you might remodel the whole house, but again, your realtor will know, and you'll have comps to show you that, and also pricing to get it done. I would say that a really top-notch realtor should be able to get you pricing and a contractor to get it done, or you're just going to be, I mean, if you don't have the wherewithal to get it done, don't even try. You're better off selling the house the way it is.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier, there's you know, house probably 20, 25 years old, and we strategically decided original appliances in the kitchen that still work, right? They're a nice dated, you know, cream color, but they still work. And so we, along with, you know, my sellers, we strategically decided curb appeal, painted a couple of walls, had the house professionally staged, but we decided to leave the kitchen because that wouldn't necessarily, you probably wouldn't recoup that dollar for dollar. But we emphasized other parts of the home, and then we priced accordingly. See, that's the deal. If you decide not to do certain things, then in consultation with your realtor, then you have to price it the right way, right? Because somebody's going to come in, if it's original carpet and it's buckling a little bit, they're going to see the buckle, so account for that in your pricing. Both of you, and Doug in particular, like, I spend $30,000 on a upgrade, or why don't I get it dollar for dollar back?
Well, one, because I think many times when you're talking about a national thing, I don't think they're doing it correctly. I think a lot of times they're doing it without guidance. They're putting in new appliances when they didn't need to. Maybe they don't know what they're doing. If you do it appropriately and you have guidance that shows it to you, then you should get more than dollar per dollar back, because it's adding something to the house, it's fixing something, it's making it attractive, you have a good location. Many of these places nationally are not a hot commodity neighborhood. So if you're in a neighborhood where they're not going to buy your house anyway, and you go in and remodel the kitchen, and you didn't have good guidance in terms of comparable sales and stuff, then that money's going down the tubes, because you have to have the attraction. People are very attracted or homes are selling in 60 days, let's say, in Sun City. I'm just making things up, but I'm sure that's pretty accurate. And you have a comp that shows that if you take this Sun City house and take it to these modern aesthetics, it's selling for a premium. Once a realtor sees that, then they're going to show that to you and say, do you want to try to do this, or do we want to go as is and sell for this? And then it's your option whether or not you want to take that little bit of risk. But I do believe that if you look at just national polling, I don't think you're going to get if you listen to, your cousin in New Jersey that flipped their house and made $100,000, whatever, that doesn't apply. You don't know what that situation was. You need to look at your local. This is often what happens when we do a refinance. As a homeowner will say, I think my house is worth $800,000 because those houses in Lakeway, there's a house in Lakeway that sold. And we're not going to be able to use that as a comp. So I think it really does boil down to knowing your market and knowing what is the demand in your market and what will they pay for that and what will it cost you.
Okay, I have a question for Doug, actually. I've been into several homes where, we talk about cost recovery, basically bang for your buck, and you always hear kitchens and baths, kitchens and baths. Well, I've walked into some houses where, it's a nice house, it's a mid-century modern style, it's well kept, and then they go and put in, remodel one of the bathrooms, and it's like the Taj Mahal in there. They put $50,000 into it, and it doesn't match anything else in the house, and the rest of the house is still kind of dated. It's nice, but it's dated, and then you've got two separate things going there. Does that affect the value as far as dollar for dollar?
I would think that's a perfect example of somebody not knowing what they were doing, spending a lot of money, and then that being reported and saying, oh, well, you don't get money for remodeling your bath. Well, that's absolutely right. They didn't do it properly. Maybe they did it to how they wanted it, and they're going to pay for that, but when they come to resell it, they're not going to get it back because they didn't do it right. Whereas in that case, probably a light remodel or an updating in there would have been more appropriate, where you keep your costs right and a really smart seller with a good counselor and a realtor would say, this is all we need to do in here. We just need to get rid of the popcorn and the wallpaper, and we're good, right?
Wallpaper's coming back. So.
It sure is.
But it's coming back in a different way.
A different way.
In a different way.
Yeah, we're building a house. I still do general contracting for custom home builders. I do consulting work. We're putting in wallpaper everywhere now. And I'm doing a house out in Montpinel. It's a $7 million house, and it's wallpaper everywhere. And
but again,
yeah,
that's a certain price point where they're putting in their fancy wallpaper.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See, it's a different deal. It's got to be like apples to apples,
Yep.
and so you want what's in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And if I could add to that, I know we're running short on time here, so I'll make it quick. But as far as bang for your buck and cost recovery, there's a reason that homes that are staged just feel nice when you go into them. And I'm not trying to hawk services for staging or even my own services. I'm not here to sell my services either. I'm here to help and advise. One of the best things you can do for bang for your buck is, people use the word declutter. I don't like that. I like to say depersonalize the home. We're removing.
Sometimes it's declutter. Yeah.
Sometimes decluttered. Yeah, the less is more. The best thing you can do is really get your house approachable so that somebody can come in who may be a young couple from California, or maybe somebody from Sun City just looking to move down the road. You need to kind of cast a wide net, I guess is what I'm saying. And the best way to do that is to not have the home so personally involved with photos and lots of knickknacks and lots of furniture. I'm stepping outside of my lane a little bit here, but I think that's a lot of bang for your buck, and it's free.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are simple ways that again, going through your home with the eyes of a buyer, potential buyer, and can the buyer see themselves in this space? Well, it's hard to when you've got your 1979 Olin Mills family picture there, right? You've got to depersonalize it, but that's all a process. I think a good agent will kind of walk you through that. So we're almost done with our time here, but I'm going to ask these gentlemen your one final piece of advice, high level. What is one thing you want our folks here to take away in specifically selling as is? Is it a costly mistake or is it a smart strategy? What would you say?
Me first. Sell as is, take care of the easy, inexpensive things, have a really good realtor, and if the realtor can show you financially that it's in your best interest to sell it faster and give you actual construction costs and the ability to get it done, right? Then you might pursue that lane. That would have to be a realtor who is inside those houses in your neighborhood all the time and has proven that they can sell them. And they actually, if they tell you to do that, they should be able to show you one of their houses that they sold. Or if not, at least really good argument to do that and at least get you the price to do it and what you'll gain. Otherwise, it's things like light bulbs, front grass, windows, light things.
Good. Yeah. Matthew?
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. A pre-listing inspection, I would advise for if you're just looking for the big ticket items. I do not like, and I personally don't like doing the full detailed inspection for many of the reasons that we discussed. The 4-point check or 5-point check of a foundation, roof, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, I think that might be beneficial if you have an older home and you have some concerns about the roof or you think the foundation might be shifting. That's something you might want to get on top of because that's definitely a red flag for a potential buyer. Foundation problems will send them running. I have a different opinion about that because a repaired foundation, in my opinion, is better than it was when it started as just a slab because now you have piers, but that's a whole other discussion. Yeah, I would say it depends on each person whether or not you want a pre-listing inspection or not, and depending on the age of the home and how much is going on there.
Yeah, that's good. I think the important thing is to have options and for you to always be in the driver's seat to look at the pros and cons of wherever you land on that selling as is spectrum. In your packet too, we provided 12 things buyers and inspectors notice most. And so take a look at that. It's 3 pages total, very, I think, helpful approach. Before we have our Q&A, could I get an educational partner to grab this mic up here for me and be a mic runner? Thank you. We have a couple of things coming up in the next few weeks. So we're going to have, next month is on driver safety, staying safe, alert, and independent behind the wheel. And I'm excited about that. But also on that Friday, we have a car fit event. And this is put on in conjunction with Texas A&M. And we're going to be out at the parking lot at First Baptist Church on Highway 29. And it's you drive up, you stay in your vehicle, and a trained technician just helps you and walks through your vehicle and make sure that it's the safest fit for you. There's alignment with your seatbelt, your mirror, your seat, all this good stuff, and it's free. We're going to host that at Seniors Living Smarter. So please take advantage of that. There'll be more information coming out. You can sign up for that, and it takes about 15, 20 minutes to drive through that, and that's called Car Fit. It'll be the Friday after our seminar. So our seminar is Thursday the 9th. This will be April the 10th. And then we have a shred event on May 2nd that we're sponsoring. It'll be in the Keller Williams parking lot here downtown, and it's from 10 to 12, I believe. Bring your shred stuff, and you can stay in your car, put me to work, I'll get it out and help shred your stuff. So any questions? Now's the time to pepper us with questions, and we've got one right back here.
Yeah, my question is for Matthew. Suppose you get a bad report. Your inspector was one of these nitpicking guys who makes a big deal out of everything. Are you stuck with that report, or you can get another inspector to do your inspection?
That's actually a great question. I don't know how that works.
Are you talking from if you're the seller? Yeah. So technically, legally, on your seller disclosure notice, you have to disclose all inspections by professional staff. So you would need to disclose that. That's why I think, and Doug has said it, find yourself a trusted agent that you can partner with before you make those decisions, who can say, I have relationship with this trusted inspector that I know is not going to do that kind of stuff because you're stuck with it.
And I suppose, and Vince, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I suppose if you did have one of those inspection reports where they would just went way overboard and everything was an emergency and everything was panicky, if you made one or two of the actual real repairs and then had a re-inspection or a second inspection after that, I don't think that violates.
That would be the strategy. Fix a couple of things that you know you need to fix, and then say you got it re-inspected, get somebody else, get some advice from somebody, and get a new one, because then you're going to disclose it as well, and it's just going to be natural that this is the more recent one, and this is the one you should pay attention to.
Exactly.
Because I fixed some things. That would be your strategy.
Yep.
Good. That's,
Then there was a lady here and then a lady here.
we'll get them, yeah.
How would you recommend going about finding a very good realtor?
Absolutely. So it's going to be somebody like Vince that's involved in the community, right? And then you obviously are going to interview 2 or 3. And the one that brings you that information the way that you need it, right? A really good CMA. I've seen CMAs where they're just throwing things together and having a big average. If they're showing you this is this house down the street, and here's what's different about it, and they should have photos, and they really explain it to you and say, this is why, you'll know. And then you'll ask a question like Vince is talking about, should we handle deferred maintenance? And they're going to give you a plan. You're going to know. You're going to interview 3. There's signs in your neighborhood. I don't know what neighborhood you're in, but there's going to be a dominant guy. There's going to be someone like Vince that does things in the community that you'll interview. And then you may interview your cousin Mabel, who's going to cut you a deal. Maybe she's a great realtor and she's just, so you're going to interview 3, and you're going to know by what they give you, right? Good comps where they're explaining, here's 1, here's 2, here's how this one's different. This is why we're going to price differently, and here's our strategy. You'll know.
Yeah, and I can second that. There's bad realtors and there's good realtors. So a lot of it's going to be referrals, right? Talking to people that have used somebody like Vince before. This is a perfect example. I mean, Vince is doing this community outreach because he's trying to help. I mean, he's not making a ton of money by putting on these presentations. He's trying to help and inform. There are some realtors out there that you would never even have face-to-face time with. They're doing it all over the phone or email, and they're just there to make that sale. And they don't really care how the sale gets done. They just want it done. And that doesn't help anybody long-term. So reputation, referrals, people that you know that have used them, and just in the first couple of minutes of sitting and talking to somebody like Vince, you can tell that they care about how this is going and how you are doing throughout the process and getting the best deal for you, not necessarily for them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Have that initial consultation, and you'll know if you connect with someone, because it's such an engaged and involved process. If you can't connect with that realtor, then and I might not be for everyone. I'm not, and when I first meet with people, I'm interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing me. Because as realtors, what we don't tell you is there are sometimes we want to fire people because they're hard to work with, So it's a two-way street. But you have to, I love humor, and I'm about people over properties, but interview people and find the right one that you're like, "Ah, I like that.
But
That's a good
I
guy."
would say don't fall for just the connection, okay? Because there are going to be realtors that are really good at connecting. Listen to their presentation about what you should sell your house for and why, and what your options are, and what they're going to do for you. Besides just
They got to have substance.
this, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of realtors that are connectors, and they're not very professional in the rest, right? So don't just go. So two things: do you believe them? And do they have a package that makes sense to you? That they really know what they're talking about in the neighborhood and what they're going to do for you, right? They're lenders, they're inspectors, all the stuff that they do. You'll know. But just don't fall for just, I'm going to take care of you. I really like you. What a cute dog. I love your house.
Got
that
it.
kind of stuff,
I
right?
always say there's a difference between a realtor and a used house salesman.
And then we had
Yeah, there's several others here. Did you have one?
How, if any, I'm sorry, hard to talk, does the tax evaluation and any homestead exemptions that you've had on that property come into play?
we can repeat it.
So, how do tax evaluations and homestead exemptions play into evaluation?
They do not, because presumably the person coming and buying is going to get homestead exemption, and the tax evaluators, they use a totally different method, mass regression analysis, so we don't really care what they say. And also, any appraisal we get for you is not provided to the taxing person. So unless it's helpful for you, if it's helpful for you, march it on down there and say you were overtaxing me. Inspections are required to be disclosed, appraisals are not.
Do you have any, or can you tell us a few things that, from an upgrade or a repair, that you saw that made a huge difference, big bang for the buck, like popcorn ceilings and that kind of thing? Is it worth the cost, and those kind of things that aren't major, like a kitchen, even a soft kitchen remodel, but just some things that you felt like made a big difference in the perception when somebody walks in?
So I think things like the front, like Vince was talking about, power wash, clean windows, the front door seemed to be an obvious thing if you have a dated front door, but it's that dinginess that you remove, uncluttering, like they were talking about, maybe even vacating the house, which in this, if you can when it goes for sale, but cleanliness and things like that. I really, anything else, popcorn ceilings, if you can, anything you can get done inexpensively, there's a way to do popcorn ceilings. I believe it's not very expensive. I think that would be an obvious little thing like you're talking about. Maybe you have a bunch of mismatched ceiling fans that are dated and ugly, right? But what's ugly to you may not be ugly to somebody else, but obviously modern is going to probably be better. And anything that's just broken, right? If they come in there and the microwave has the handles broken, right? Yeah. You have to do it. If I was to tell you, I'd be misleading you, because what works in this neighborhood is going to not necessarily work in this neighborhood, and how much you spend. Like, if you're going to redo floors, can you use LVP, which is the newest thing, right? It looks like wood, it's really vinyl. In some places, it's going out of style. In a rental house, it's probably great. You really need somebody who knows that neighborhood and can show you pictures of houses that have sold for premiums and what they've gone for. But other than that, if you're going to go cheap and not spend a lot of money, there's tons of things you can do to trim trees away from the roof, clean windows, get your landscaping, and just overall cleanliness, that if you're not going to spend a lot of money. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but if I told you something else, I'd be misleading you.
Matthew, did you have any response to that? No?
No, curb appeal and first impressions is really what it comes down to.
Any other questions back here? Okay, sorry.
My question is, do you, for an for an appraisal, do you go inside the house?
Most of the time, yes, we do. There's certain situations, obviously, where we don't, but in a bank situation, we'll probably be going inside your house. Yes, ma'am.
Then many of us in this room are from Sun City, and those are standard floor plans. Are those comparisons within those floor plans, or how do you do that?
So if we had a floor plan, a comp that had sold recently that was your floor plan, and all of the things being similar, that would be our primary comp. So we would look at your floor plan as being the best comparable. Now, let's say you have your floor plan, but you're on the golf course. Well, then we need to go find out what the golf course contributed. So maybe we can't find your floor plan on a golf course, but we can find a house that's similar size and age on the golf course. That would be another comp. A really good realtor should be doing that kind of analysis for you, not just a carte blanche, hey, here's your average price per square foot in the neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
So you would stay within Sun City, in other words?
Absolutely. Sun City would have enough comps.
We're kind of a different, in many ways, different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's that you're exactly right.
And I completely agree with Doug. I like to give you more information than what you probably need, but I do look at it's like floor plans. So if you have a Cortez or whatever, we look at that. But also we take a step back and we say, okay, I mean, if I like your floor plan, I'm a buyer, but there's another 2,000 square foot home, a little bit bigger, a little smaller, right over here. I'm going to give you a big picture of both. So, but yes, we do in Sun City. It's very common to look at floor plan, comparison. Yeah. Back here.
Can you talk about fencing? We've talked about everything that we can take care of because it's ours, but fencing is shared. So what if your neighbor is not wild about it, but the fence needs fixing? Do you do it all by yourself?
I would say no. I would say that's the kind of thing that isn't going to be a big issue and is easily solved through a concession or your pricing, or let them call for it. That would be an easy, almost a red herring. If they're going to complain about the fence and that's the only thing they have to complain about, you're in good shape. If you wanted to just maybe spruce it up a little near the front, but fences are often not in great condition unless they're a really fancy fence, and I wouldn't stress about it.
And to add to that, from the inspection side, whenever I'm going through things at the end of the report, I'll say, and there's a couple of fence posts that are rotted or are falling and need to be, and 9 times out of 10, we don't care about that. Okay, what about the HVAC or what about the roof? They don't care about the fencing. Even though, it can get expensive, it's just not in there, in front of them.
Do we see much in the way of national companies buying houses to rent in this area?
If we did, I wouldn't see them because they would be done in a different way than Lori ordering an appraisal for a buyer where Vince is representing the buyer. It's just a totally different deal. I don't see it though, but I wouldn't probably see it. And I think probably the pricing in this area is not conducive to them making money. They're going to buy somewhere where the house prices are much lower, and investing in this area right now doesn't bring a return because the pricing is such that your note is going to be higher than what the rents are. And that's not attractive for buying big blocks of houses. Maybe they're doing it in Mississippi, or maybe they're doing it in Oklahoma. I don't know. But it's going to be somewhere where they're going to make money.
So he wouldn't necessarily know, if that's happening.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening here because I don't think the pricing is right. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Right here in the red. Yes.
She's bringing you one.
Oh, I have cracks in my driveway. Is that a big thing to does that indicate anything about cracks maybe in my foundation, or?
If she has cracks in a driveway, what does that indicate?
For the foundation.
In the driveway, I tell everybody this, that driveways are crud. The concrete that they use and very minimal reinforcement, if any at all, no, it's typically not an indicator, and they're also poured separately from the foundation itself, so they're two separate structures. And a lot of times there's trees right next to the driveway and the roots start popping up. So when I see a driveway that just looks like there was just an earthquake underneath it, I don't even pay attention to it, and I direct the buyers in that same way because it's irrelevant. Now, it could be something with soil, and then I'll start looking at the foundation itself, but it's not an indicator of a larger issue.
Is it just cracking, or are you getting trips? I'd discuss that with an agent. There's elastomeric filling you can put in there that's pretty easy. You could probably get a handyman if you're trying to spruce it up for sale. Discuss it with your agent. There's ways to fix that, but he's correct that it probably doesn't have anything to do with the foundation of your house if you're not having sticking doors. Do you have any brick in your house on the outside? If you're not seeing cracking in the brick and you're not having other issues, you should keep the soil moist around your house, right? Continuously with some sort of sprinkler. But I don't think you have a problem, and you would discuss that with the agent. You could fix it up for what curb appeal purposes, and if it was inexpensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Vince was saying, a power washing and then filling in some of those cracks just so it looks a little nicer goes a long way. A driveway replacement, astronomical cost.
Yeah, lately I think it's Sun City, we did one, it was $10,000.
At least,
easily.
and that's gone
Yeah,
up
it was easy.
recently. Yep.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Last question. Actually, you two. We'll get you.
Relate to the fact that Old Town, this part of town is on the fault line, and that plays with your foundations a lot.
I can grab this one. Yeah, absolutely. We do sit on the Balcones fault line. It runs from Dallas down to San Antonio, and it roughly follows I-35. It's almost exactly I-35, just by coincidence, on a map. So that's why when you go over to Pflugerville, Manor, those areas, you have a lot of foundation issues because there's a lot of clay on that side of I-35, whereas you get on to the west side and you have a lot of more limestone when you're into Cedar Park and that area. So Georgetown kind of sits right on that dividing line. And that's why if you look at a map, when you head out to Houston, it's flat as a pancake, right? And when you head into Austin, you're into hill country. That's because the two fault lines from the Balcones fault line came together, pushed up all the hills, and stayed flat towards Houston. The only reason I say that is there's a lot of clay in that flat area where the hills weren't pushed up, and clay is very expansive when it gets wet, and it shrinks quite a bit when the moisture leaves, and that is terrible for foundations, and that's why you have so much foundation problems on the east side of I-35.
That's why you want to keep your foundation moist so that you don't have the situation where it gets dry and the clay drops, leaving a void underneath your foundation. So they'll recommend, how you have a little sprinkler system around your house for your shrubs. It also helps keep your soil.
What about tin roofs?
Well, are they tin or is it stainless steel standing seam metal?
5 years old and it's a big tin roof.
So you can see the screws. This is probably better for Matthew. Can you see the screws? She's asking
She's
about
not that tall.
tin roofs. The modern is a standing seam metal where you don't have any fasteners.
This is fasteners, she said.
The problem with that is eventually the little grommets around the fasteners
You're exactly right. Keep going.
will fail. And nobody wants to get up on that tin roof to replace all those fasteners. And when they do, they got to go with a little bit larger screw. So it's a pretty intense fix. I would wait until absolutely necessary that somebody's telling you, unless you can get a contractor to get up there and put in brand new screws everywhere, because the tin's not failing, it's the exposed fasteners and the grommets.
I didn't see any leaks.
Yeah, leave it be.
The
But
I'd agree.
absolutely leave it be
I'd
and
agree.
wait to negotiate. I wouldn't get anybody up there for that.
Yep.
I think unless you can get a really cheap guy.
Okay,
I don't know
thank
about
you
that
guys so
Exactly.
much for being here.
Right on.
We will be available. They'll be here at the tables here in the center, and I'll be right here up at the front. Feel free to ask us questions. We want to make sure that you leave today feeling confident and getting all your questions answered. So thank you for being here. And again, if I haven't met you, come say hi. Thanks.
Thank
Howard.
you.